Hello my dear viewers, it has been so long, but I am so glad to welcome you back to Le World of Pokemon.
Mwah, mwah. Okay, that's about as far as my French impressions are gonna go. On this series, we have covered 5 Pokemon regions, covering all 4 main islands of Japan as well as the greater Manhattan area as we progressed from Kanto to Unova. Our destination this time is the 6th generation region of Kalos, but for the first time in this series, we're going to be heading out of my linguistic comfort zone. I am an American YouTuber who has spent a majority of my adult life in Japan and other Asian nations. So when it came to pronouncing place names for the series, which have thus far had their counterparts set in either Japan or America, I was pretty comfortable. This time, however, our region of Kalos is based on the northern half of France. So in order to assist me with pronunciation, I'm going to cop out and rely on Google's French bot. Can you say hello, French bot?
Bonjour.
Thank you. My assistant here will be helping me with the native French place names. However, any route and city names in Kalos, which are based on French pronunciation rules, are mine to ruin. You're just gonna have to deal with it. Alright, let's start the show. We begin our adventures in Kalos at our new home in Dendemille Town, where the player, either Calum or Serena, departs on their Pokemon adventure. Dendemille Town is based on the small town of
Moulin.
In central France. A small commune of not even 20,000 people, it is a fitting starting Pokemon town from which we will proceed to greatness. After choosing from either Chespin, Fennekin, or Froakie, we depart on Route 1 to arrive in Aquacorde Town. Aquacorde Town matches the town of
Laverre,
just north of our home. Another small town, both it and Aquacorde share a very rustic and classic looking stone bridge leading out of them, which in Kalos takes us out onto Route 2 into Santalune Forest and eventually to Santalune City. As you may have guessed, a very famous forest and town lays just north of our last destination, the forest of
Fontainebleau,
and the hamlet sharing the same name. A popular tourist destination from its beautiful forestry, the small town is also known for the Palais, which sits in the southwestern quarter. Back in Kalos, Santalune City is where we can battle for the bug badge from Viola. And after obtaining our first badge, we are able to proceed out on Route 4 to Lumio City, which I'm sure many of you already know to be Paris. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean you already know it to be
Paris.
In the vast capital of Kalos in France, there is great shopping and cafes to partake in. And in the center of Lumio City, we have Prism Tower, which is of course based on the Eiffel Tower, or
La Tour Eiffel.
On our first trip to this city of many to come, we have little to do after sightseeing, but to head out west on Route 5, arriving at Camphrier Town. Within this charming hamlet lies Chabanneau Castle, a gorgeous reminder of the ancient history of this region. On this spot in the real world lies
Blois,
a historic town which was once the base of Joan of Arc for a time, and also containing the
Château de Blois.
After resting here, we are able to head out on Route 7, which itself contains a few diversions before we reach our next destination. On Route 7 itself, we find the Battle Chateau, which appears to be based on the
Château de Chenonceau,
a chateau that spans the Cher River near the village of
Chenonceau.
Also on Route 7 is the pathway to Route 6, a small diversion which takes us to Parfum Palace. There is absolutely no doubt that this palace and the road leading up to it are taken from the gorgeous lands and structure of the
Palais de Versailles.
After taking in the amazing scenery, as well as catching my favorite new Kalos Pokemon Honedge in the Parfum Gardens, we can head back on Route 7, passing through the Zubat Roost, down south to Ambrette Town. Ambrette Town, home of the Fossil Lab and Ambrette Aquarium, is based on the harbor town of
La Rochelle,
an ancient and important harbor in western France that has seen numerous uses throughout history, as far back as a base on the Atlantic for the Order of the Knights Templar, all the way up to the World Wars in the 1900s. From Ambrette Town, we are able to head out east on the Spikes Passage to the Glittering Cave, which unfortunately doesn't seem to have a French equivalent. However, once done there, we can head out on lower Route 8 from Ambrette Town to arrive at our next destination of Cyllage City. Cyllage City is based on another major harbor town, the ancient
Saint-Nazaire.
Known for its history and its ship manufacturing, the city unfortunately saw major damage throughout World War II, leading to it needing to be nearly completely rebuilt in the late 1940s after the war. Back in Cyllage City, we're able to claim our second badge off of Grant, obtaining the Cliff Badge. With it in hand, we can head out on Route 10, passing the famous standing stones on our way to Geosinge Town. The many stones dotting this path may be something you're already familiar with, as they are a very famous and very real sight throughout
Carnac.
While the stones of Geosinge hint at a hidden ancient power below, the stones of this town have no clear purpose, and some argue may have been like this since 3300 BC to 4500. After taking in this wondrous sight, we can head northeast on Route 11, passing through the Reflection Cave to arrive in Laverre City. Besides obtaining the Rumble Badge from Karina here, we were also able to visit the Tower of Mastery and learn much about the ways of Mega Evolution. Laverre City is taken from
Saint-Malo,
a major tourist destination in France known for its many ancient buildings. And while it is hard to say what could be inspiring the tower, my best guess based on the landscape would be the ancient island commune of
Mont-Saint-Michel.
yet another one of France's most famous landmarks. With 3 badges in hand, we can head out on Route 12, passing the Bas de Mer Ranch and the Azure Bay along the way. While the ranch could be any fertile land along this path, the Azure Bay and the islands, most namely the Sea Spirit's Den, fit well here on our map, going out on the English Channel with several major islands, including the islands of Jersey and Guernsey. Just passing by these sites for now, we will then arrive in Coumarine City, which is based on
Le Havre,
a city containing the 2nd largest port in France. Coumarine is a calming little town split into 2 parts, and after taking the monorail up, we are able to challenge Ramos for the plant badge, meaning that we are now halfway through our journey of becoming the league champion of Kalos. At this point, we have now covered about 2/3 of Kalos, leaving just the northeastern and eastern section. After traveling out on Route 13, passing the Kalos power plant, we arrive back in Lumiose City where we can challenge Clement for the voltage badge. With 5 badges now in hand, Route 14 is open to us, taking us north to my favorite town in Kalos, Laverre City, home of the Pokeball Factory and many fairy Pokemon. Laverre City has a very striking style that makes it stand out, which is much like its counterpart town of
Amiens,
which contains a lot more stunning architecture that brings many travelers to its streets. One of the best examples of this is the
Basilique Cathédrale Notre-Dame d'Amiens,
which is a wonderful example of Gothic architecture of the late 1200s. Within the gorgeous 6 gem sitting in the center of town, we are able to challenge Valerie for the ferry badge, and with it in hand we can head out on Route 15, passing by the creepy Lost Hotel to arrive at Dendemille Town. Dendemille is just a small stop on our journey, but its counterpart town does contain an interesting little story. The hamlet of
Charleville-Mézières,
was originally 2 different communities on either side of the bank here. After connecting the 2 sides of this river by suspension bridge, the 2 communities were joined together, which could be referencing the bridge here which tied the 2 split communities into one. Either way, once we are done resting in Dendemille Town, we can head through the Frost Cavern and Route 17 to arrive in Anastar City, which in France is the location of
Strasbourg,
As you may already be able to tell from the name and its direct border with Germany, this city has a lot of Franco-German history and culture. And some of that history, of course, has not always been peaceful, even long before the outbreak of 2 world wars. It is here in Anastar City that we were able to pick up the 7th badge from Olympia, the Psychic Badge, before our journey goes on a sudden hiatus as we have to deal with Team Flare, assaulting their secret headquarters and stopping their plans to utilize either Xerneas or Yveltal. After ending the evil Lysander's dreams, we are able to head back to Anastar and take Route 18 all the way to Couriway Town. Couriway Town, famous for its water, rivers, and waterfalls, is based on the small commune of
Molsheim,
which isn't especially known for its waters, but rather the various ancient buildings which dot it, showing off medieval, Renaissance, and other architectural styles throughout history. We are almost at the end here, and after passing through Couriway, we will take Route 19 to Snowbelle City. Snowbelle City is based on
Besançon,
a border city with Switzerland, which is a famous destination for both art and history. Snowbelle is where we are able to challenge Wulfric for the Iceberg Badge, meaning that we now have all 8 badges necessary to take on the Elite Four of Kalos at the Pokemon League. After traveling Route 21 to Victory Road, we arrive at the League building, which can only be referencing a very famous cathedral, the
Cathédrale Notre-Dame de Reims.
While the connections between these 2 buildings is not at first recognizable, from other angles, the comparison should be very clear. It is here where we are finally able to prove our worth and claim victory against Malva, Sibold, Wickstrom, Drosna, and finally the champion of Kalos, Diantha. Our win against Diantha makes us the new league champion of Kalos, and just as many kings throughout French history were crowned in the real-life cathedral here, we now have our own proof of authority throughout this land. As we are now the champion of Kalos, we have just about reached the end of our journey, but there is one more stop here. After returning home, we are able to travel to Cyllage City, which is based on the absolutely beautiful city of
Lyon.
While there is still much to do here, and we could continue on in the wondrous region of Kalos, there aren't really any other location connections to cover, and if you were not already aware, in the massive amount of time between the Unova video and this one, a brand new Pokemon generation has dropped with a brand new region to be explored. So be sure to join me next time on this series as we hop across the oceans once more for the sunny islands of Alola. Frenchbot, say goodbye.
Au revoir.
I'd like to give a very special thank you to my top patrons Corey Mosdy and Austin Lau, and all of the other patrons that support me. If you too would like to be the very best like no one has ever known, go ahead and jump on over to my Patreon page and consider donating.
Also, I would like to stop here for a moment and give the biggest thank you to my patron Tris for providing all of the 3DS footage used in this video. After the Unova video, which was completed back in November 2015, I looked for almost an entire year for someone who could provide footage for me or let me use some Let's Play footage for this specific video. But all of my requests were completely ignored until I started talking about it on Twitter, and Tris himself offered to provide me all of the footage for this and for several previous Hyrule Warriors Legends content that I've made, all the while expecting no reward or recognition in exchange for his help. However, Tris, I am going to recognize you here because you are an awesome individual. I think that it is certainly a very impressive person who is willing to do so much for a complete stranger on the internet who lives thousands and thousands of miles away. Tris gathered almost 2 hours of footage for this single video on his own time as a busy college student, and I owe him a great debt of thanks. If you think that generosity like this should be rewarded, as I do, then please take a moment and click the annotation on screen or the link in the description to go over to Tris's channel, which he runs with his friends, watch some of his great videos, which are sure to make you smile, like them, share them, and subscribe. I would very much appreciate it if everyone, including the people who ask me where is the Kalos video over and over and over, could take a moment and go do that for him, because this video would not have been possible otherwise. Thank you everyone for watching and listening to me throughout 2016. It has been one hell of a year. I hope you had a good one, and I'll see you next year.